Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Monday, July 25th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by The Social Hour. Amber MacArthur and Sarah Lane delve deep into the social networking world and come up with diamonds every Monday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern at live.twit.tv. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz, Akhtar.
Read the script, kitchen. We got Iyaz with us now. We've got a bigger set. We've got room.
Wow, that was
installed
awkward.
Iyaz.
Well, I've been here for a while.
It's one of those Chrome updates. It just happens in the background, and all of a sudden you got Akhtar. Iyaz, Akhtar, Darren Kitchen here. Jason Howell here. We stepped all over your intro.
That's okay.
He's over in
I'm
the
way
Octo
over
booth.
in the side over here.
He's
We're
in the control center. We're on our new set here at the new Brick Twit House in Petaluma, California. Finally doing our first Tech News Today live. We have no idea how the show's going to end because we can't show you the new studios anymore.
Right. We might.
Audio users don't know what
We
we're
do have the
talking
drop
about.
cam, though, so we can show a shot of Jason if we want.
Yeah, we'll just go to the drop cam
Any given time.
and show people sitting in the audience.
We're the old studio, and then crickets.
All right, let's take a quick look at the news. We're getting started a little late, so if it's
yes.
if it's late in your feed, then that would be why. Netflix, lots of news around Netflix today. A rumor going around that they might be close to signing a deal with DreamWorks Animation that would take the DreamWorks Animation deal away from HBO, give it to Netflix, but also their earnings call today. It appears that they disappointed the street. Even though they didn't do badly, 8% of U.S. households, projected subscribers in Q3 up to 27 million, a little lighter than analysts were looking for. For the third quarter, revenue guidance up to 828 million, which will also disappoint Wall Street. And quarterly EPS guidance, if you're into that sort of stuff, 72 cents to $1.07 per share. Important thing there, lower than expectation. So Netflix stopped dropping a little bit in the after-hours trading.
Yeah, I mean, the news isn't all bad, though. I mean, it's just the investors we've seen a lot, they've freaked out. I mean, we've seen Microsoft's earnings were quite good, and investors freak out. So, I mean, the time right after closing, I wouldn't put a lot of stock into that, no pun intended.
But a good one anyway. In the Q&A session of their earnings call, Netflix said that it hates upsetting customers by raising prices as much as 60%, and also acknowledged that the customer backlash would stifle growth and hurt earnings in the current quarter. But you know what? We expect most to stay with us because each of our $7.99 plans is an incredible value. That's what they said. Darren, you believe it?
It's not that expensive. I mean, considering it seems like the push was just to move people to the streaming option. The streaming option was cheaper than the one for the DVDs anyway.
But if they're saying, yeah, it's going to hit us in the pocketbook, but they'll come back. They'll be back.
We looked at the other options.
Where's they going to go?
Yeah, we've looked at the options, and the pricing for a lot of other competitors are just not as competitive as Netflix's prices. So even though the price was so low to start with, that 60% increase looked huge because their service probably was underpriced to start with.
Sure, but I mean, exactly, and that's a great way to get the early adopters in, get people in droves to be like trying out the service, and then just kind of incrementally bring it up afterwards, and you realize like you can't live without it.
Netflix has also said in the past that they're used to having a bit of a turnover rate. I mean, people try out Netflix, and they're used to maybe, for whatever reason, after a year, they lose people, they gain more. So this is it's almost a good excuse for them to just sign up a bunch of people who don't know any different.
Yeah. A side note here, too, a research report from Leichtman Research Group out today saying 8% of U.S. households subscribe to broadband services without also having a pay TV subscription. That you would think that's going to be really good news for somebody like Netflix. People are cutting the cord. 8%. That's a bigger number than we've seen before. However, when you look at the numbers, only 5% of broadband-only subscribers say they have kicked the pay TV habit because they can find what they want to watch online instead. And of those, just 2% cite Netflix in particular as a reason for cutting the cord. The vast majority of people who say, you know what, I don't have cable TV anymore, just say, it costs too much. I do other things. I just don't watch TV.
That's great for society.
Yeah.
Well, as somebody who recently got rid of cable subscription, I didn't do it just based on financials, although that was a plus. I save about $50 a month. But it's not as if I can recreate the experience right now. I'm just watching less TV.
And there's so much else to do. This has been my opinion for a long time about music sales and video sales as well. There are so many other things to do with the internet. You can watch YouTube videos. You can go to social networks. You can spend your time playing games. I mean, you can just read weird stuff. There's so much more that you can do.
So much on the internet
to entertain yourself that it cuts out of that. And I think a lot of people are realizing, you know what, I don't even like watching television anymore. I can do other things.
That's also something Reed Hastings has said a lot of times. And he said Netflix is not competing with cable companies. We're just a supplement. And this kind of study shows that. I mean, 2%. That's not a whole lot.
Not, I mean, it's Netflix is a way to watch movies and TV shows, not all of the TV shows that are available on any cable subscription. So, it couldn't be a replacement.
Yeah, and I can imagine that while it's only 8% that don't subscribe to cable television in addition to their cable internet. I wonder how many of those actually of the other percentage don't watch TV, because I know that when I just hooked up my office, they're like, oh, and it's like a package thing, and you just kind of get it because it's like $10 more, just in case.
26% say they just don't watch that much TV.
That's awesome.
They're reading books.
Folks. Yeah, not reading books in an iOS store as much, maybe. Because it's going to be harder to buy them. It looks like today is the day that all of the apps finally updated their apps to comply with Apple's new policy that they rolled back a little bit, but basically says if you sell books through your app or anything through your app, you have to use our in-app purchase, which Apple gets 30% cut of. So we're all wondering, well, what's Amazon going to do? They have that link that takes you to the Amazon store. They don't want to give 30% of that to Apple. Well, they're not. Amazon removed the button, has not added in-app purchases. They even added in the update that took away the button the ability to read in-app newspapers, but there's no way to get to them from the app. You just have to go to Amazon.com and subscribe. Barnes & Noble actually puts a message in there trying to describe to people to open Safari and visit nookbooks.com, but no direct link. The Kobo app removed their link to their Kobo store. Wall Street Journal says it's going to remove its link. We hadn't seen it removed at the time we started doing the show. And Google Books disappeared briefly from the store. We don't know why. Google won't comment on why. It's back now. But they also won't have a link to their store. So instead of giving Apple the money, they're just taking the links out.
Which is inconvenient for people, especially, okay, so the Kindle app, for example. It's like, well, wouldn't it be nice to be able to just buy books from within the app? But they also win because they don't have to give Apple anything. It's almost like a principal value.
What do you think that feels like on the user end, the experience? You get the updated, because it says, oh, there's an updated version of this app, and you're like, do I want to? And then all of a sudden a feature is gone, and you're like, oh, those stupid Amazon people, they took out the thing that I liked. Or do you go, or do you think that same audience is the audience that knows, oh, if I update this, I'm going to lose that feature?
There's plenty of us that know how to use it, right? Yeah. But the question is, are there going to be those who primarily are using the app to read a Kindle or a Barnes & Noble or a Kobo book and then can't figure out how to get the books?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that it makes sense to me that a company, Amazon or whoever, to say, listen, we don't want to give away 30%, and if a customer is loyal, then they'll figure it out. But I mean, especially from doing iPad today, I know so many people are they're not reading up on this insidery news. They don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. They just know when they're inconvenienced. And that's a sucky experience for a consumer.
Do you think this is going to drive anybody to use the iBooks store more because they have the access to buy the books directly there? Or is this going to be more Amazon saying, look, our web pages are going to be really easy, so you can go send to Kindle, and they already do that now. So are other sites going to change so they have a much easier in-app purchase, not in-app, but on the web purchase? Or are people going to move to the iBook store?
For me, it would come down to two things. It would come down to the price and convenience, as well as the DRM, or what the permissions are that you can do with the book. And if it wasn't too draconian and it was convenient, yeah.
I think Amazon is betting on the fact that people discover their bookstore first and their app second. They find the books when they're at Amazon.com and go, oh, how do I read these ebooks? They download the app, and then they figure it out. Then they already know. Very few people are going to the App Store discovering the Kindle app and then downloading it and go, well, wait a minute, how do I get books? So, no, I actually disagree. I don't think it's going to really hurt, and I don't think it's going to push people towards iBooks in very many numbers.
In Amazon's case, it's not it's not like you can't get them on easily. They just show up in like what, an archived section or something now.
Yeah, you have to know to go to the browser and download them. Then they show up in archive. But that was the way it was in the past anyway. You can actually have stuff pushed directly to the app still.
Nice.
I tried it with the Washington Post. I was able to get today's issue of the Washington Post on my Amazon Kindle app. It was pretty nice.
Good deal.
And it pushed directly. I didn't have to go into
So you
archive.
didn't have to jump through a whole lot of hoops? It was just a one-time setup thing?
Yeah, I just updated the app. I went to Safari. I found Washington Post, said buy it. When next time I launched the Amazon Kindle app, it just started download.
Nice.
Very nice. Another app story, Facebook's iPad app was apparently hidden inside of their iPhone app.
How do you do that?
Well,
A universal binary.
yeah. Is that
It
what
wasn't
happened, you
just
think?
stuffed into the iPhone.
Well, yeah, no. Yes, that is what they did. They put that with all the G's in there. No. What were you saying, Tom?
No, I was asking.
Well, I was just
you were
saying,
going to
yeah, I
explain
mean, the
the
idea
universal
is
binary.
that just that it's a, it's just like an application that'll run on your iPhone, and when it detects that you're on an iPhone, it has one experience, and if you put it on your iPad, it has a different experience.
And they just assumed no one would look at the source code and find that it was there. However, Canadian engineering student Marvin Bernal, according to TechCrunch, actually noticed this Facebook mistake and immediately tweeted about it. TechCrunch confirmed that, in fact, yeah, that iPad source app was there. They started running it. MG Siegler put up a bunch of screenshots of it. It looks nice. It's got a nice left side nav. It looks a lot more like the site than the current iPhone app looks.
Although it does look relatively different than their Safari experience, which I've been using with, I mean, I don't have much complaint about it. I guess I've just gotten used to it, but it's definitely different. It's not just their whole Project Spartan, we don't want to be involved in an app thing that we had heard about in the past.
Although it does have quite a bit of HTML5 in the code, apparently, for things like refreshing the news feed and stuff like that. So it's an indication that it's partway down that road to Project Spartan.
Well, I think that's a great way to do it. And I don't know, this is one of those things where I see it and I'm like, it makes you wonder, like, is this the internal code that just got published? And, Bob was like, hey, we need to send out the new version that fixes the chat button on the iPhone app. And it's like, use the main trunk. I don't know, looks good to me.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. That sounds likely, something like that. Street View cars getting a little controversy from CNET again. They reported back on June 15th that MAC addresses were available in the public database that Google makes available to the API so that folks can build applications that take advantage of Google locations. Also true for Skyhook Wireless, by the way. They also had MAC addresses available. Google said, of course, we make MAC addresses available for Wi-Fi access points because that's how we map. We know that MAC address goes with that Wi-Fi access point, and that Wi-Fi access point is at that lat long, and so that's how you know this. CNET today reporting that according to CNIL, the Commission Nationale de l'Informatique et de la Liberté in France, said its investigation confirms that Street View cars collected MAC addresses of more than just access points, of laptops and phones and other things. The question is, how do you make sure that the MAC address you're collecting from an access point is a router and not a phone? And secondly, is that a big ethical violation to publish that publicly?
Well, I think what it comes down to is like an access point, like a regular one that we would think of in infrastructure mode, is sending out what's called beacons. And these beacon frames are just special frames that say, hey, I'm an access point, come join me. That's what you would expect Google to be collecting. But that's not to say that the other 6 different modes of wireless, master managed, ad hoc, all of those different, if you had an ad hoc network or if you're a client connected to one, that you're not also transmitting not beacon frames per se, but similar frames that identify your machine by what's called a BSSID, or basically your MAC address of your, every network card on every computer has a unique identifier for it. And there's databases all over that catalog this. Wiggle.net is one of the most popular open source ones, wigle.net. And I could just, plug in an address and see all of the, MAC addresses and SSID names of networks around this area. Similarly, you may remember Sammy Kamkar. He was responsible for the cross-site scripting worm that made himself like friends with everyone on MySpace years and years ago. Well, he had some awesome code that he had posted that basically allowed you to plug in the MAC address, and it would use Google's own API to find out where on the map they're located. And of course, Google has taken steps to actually shut that down.
Yeah, they say they removed it now, but a lot of people are saying they should be brought to task. They should be paying another fine for this. Iyaz, is this an ethical violation? I mean, you could be able to see like, oh, this person goes to this restaurant
Yeah,
a
it's
lot.
kind of like your
this
phone
person
number.
lives at this address.
It's like
possibly.
having your phone number listed.
The weird thing is, I mean, couldn't
see it.
Google figure out exactly what if a MAC address is moving? Like, let's say they were driving their car, they're picking up all this data, and they find out, okay, this MAC address is at this location A, and then it's at B, then it's at C. That's a phone. We're going to just delete that. Couldn't they?
Well,
do
actually,
something?
they could distinguish and say,
Yeah.
oh, wait, no, this is a beacon frame from a wireless card in infrastructure mode, which indicates it as a access point, whereas the 6 other modes are the clients and all of the other mesh networks and things.
Would that have been
like
something
There's a
simple
way
they
to
could have
distinguish.
done?
Yeah.
So they didn't have to keep
technically,
this
yeah.
as a
They
log?
could have easily distinguished between a client phone.
If it's that easy, then it seems like it's a real problem. I don't know why they bothered to then put this information out there.
But
They could have deleted
is it incumbent upon them? It's just a MAC address. Your MAC address is public. It's broadcasting
and,
right now.
If you didn't want to be listed, you can change it. You can change it right now. Type ifconfig. You know, it's not that easy. But, you know, like if it's your home router you're concerned about, it's in the admin, interface. Go look around advanced. You'll see somewhere that says change MAC address. It's on, like, most consumer routers.
And it's not exactly like being listed in the phone book because that MAC address isn't tied in an easy database to your name. You have to do a little more social engineering to figure out, oh, that MAC address goes with Sarah Lane.
Isn't that the fear, though, that this data's out there so you can track
but
it?
is there a reality to it? I mean, I got to go and sit in a coffee shop and sniff.
That was the beauty of
MAC address.
And I don't know how well this hack works anymore, but that was the beauty of the cross-site scripting attack, because I could get Sarah to, and if she was on a particular, I think it was a Verizon cable modem or something like that, if I got you to click a link, then it would go to this page where I could run some code that would get your router to tell me its MAC address, and then if you also have a wireless access point, I could maybe find your location.
Right.
It's a stretch.
Google also in hot water over Google Plus. Lots of examples out there of people getting their accounts removed and getting a very generic response from Google saying it's been removed for policy violation. Your policy violation could include you were spamming, you didn't follow the proper names thing because they require you to have a name, could be 3 or 4 other things. And so some folks are looking at it saying, oh, well, for instance, you talked about this on the social hour. Your friend, or I know her too, Dana, doesn't use her last name on any social network.
Yeah, she's all over the place, and I don't know her last name actually offhand because that's the way that she chooses to present herself online. And yeah, she had her account suspended, and I mean she's a rule follower. Let's just say that.
And there was a guy named Brian, B-R-I-E-N, who did use his last name, and he got his account suspended. He's like, is it because I spelled Brian with an E? They just like want me to prove that I actually spell my name that way?
So if they're looking at spelling of names, I look like I'm in a lot of trouble.
But and I'm not sure if these people are getting reported by other people, and that's the only way that people's accounts are getting taken down. I'm looking at some of the people who have added me in circles. Crankles the Clown, for example, has added me to a circle. I would assume that Google would have a problem with that.
Maybe it's his real name.
Maybe it is, but I'm gonna guess maybe
it's on his birth certificate.
Maybe that's
he's got some
true.
very cruel
Okay,
parents.
well, there have been other, SEO marketing for you, which is probably
seen
not
some
on anyone's
spam.
birth certificate.
This isn't too much different than what Facebook does. I mean, it's not like you can use. I once tried to register Darren Kitten, and it's like Kitten's not a last name. You can't be Darren Kitten.
What if it is?
That would be awesome, though.
What if your last name was Kitten, though?
I know.
Well, Vic Gundotra explained to Robert Scoble. Robert Scoble posted this on Google+, that the requirement isn't about real names or legal names anyway. It's about having common names and removing people who spell their names in weird ways, like using upside-down characters or who are using obviously fake names, because they feel they want to have a better experience from that. And Scoble implied that he was quoting Gundotra when he said this, but Scoble wrote, it's like when a restaurant doesn't allow people who aren't wearing shirts to enter. So is this just a snooty Google Plus club where it's like, oh, you have to, I'm sorry, sir, your name is not dressed appropriately.
I feel that that's a
here.
weird analogy to me. I mean, if someone's not wearing a shirt, I mean, if a woman's not wearing a shirt, that's like indecent.
Well, yeah, but you know how clubs are like only collared shirts.
Yeah,
because we want to maintain a certain
they already have the 18
appearance
plus.
here.
Well, how
Right?
can you tell based on somebody's name if they're topless? That's what I'm saying.
Well, Google's
like-
done a lot of analytics on this, so I just trust that must
other
be.
data
They're
that was
sparkly.
sniffed.
They're
We're getting it from wireless
All
access
right.
points.
But I mean, is that a good idea? It seems to be causing a lot of frustration. There's a ton. of Computer World has one. ZDNet has one of all these examples of people who are like, I got disabled. I got my account disabled. Sometimes, in some cases, they lost their data and they have no idea why.
So I've got a good friend that uses a non-real name because they just don't want to. That's what they do online. They just don't put themselves out there in that way. And this person is like really excited about Google Plus, and using it and thinks it's great and everything, and if they were to get banned and had to spend like a week or whatever sending in driver's license, they wouldn't do that. And then that would be it.
Yeah, sometimes people are being asked to submit photocopies of their identification to prove that that is in fact their name.
Although, I mean, if there's enough backlash, I'm thinking Google's going to backtrack and completely change their mind and say, all right, look, we're going to have to just deal with this.
Godotra admitted to Scoble, we have made mistakes and we're trying to refine the process.
Yeah, I mean, Google, that's why Google Plus is still not public, which is a safe thing. At least they didn't do this with like Buzz.
It is in field test, that's
Right.
true.
It's got 20 million users. I mean, that's a pretty big beta
And it's
test.
a social network. They can do whatever they want with it. If they're like, you know what, we want you to wear a tie and spell Brian with an A, they can do that. It's
just going to hurt their user
base.
base.
It's not a government institution.
It'll hurt their user base, but as the user base grows, I think they're going to continue to have a lot of people who don't care. I mean, I'm not leaving Google Plus because I'm forced to use my real name, and I think that there are a lot of other people out there who just are going to say, that's fine. That's a fine rule.
Now, we don't know if this next person actually is using their real name, but someone who calls themselves Martin Anderson sent us an awesome new Newsfuse intro to celebrate the fact that we are on the new set in the new studio. So, it is time for the Newsfuse. That's awesome. Thank you, Martin.
Awesome.
If that's your real name.
It's like a Quake 2 wall texture.
Last week, the internet was ablaze with news of fake Apple stores in China, Kunming in particular. Not fake Apple products, though, we found out, but counterfeit Apple stores. Those 2 stores that we mentioned in Kunming have been shut down by Chinese authorities. Over 300 electronic stores were investigated. Some stores did have operating permits, but used Apple's logo without permission. According to Bloomberg, Apple did not prompt the governmental investigation, and the only stores that were shut down were those who were violating China's licensing problems, not violating Apple's policies.
Anonymous just received an 8-gigabyte present. The organization says it received 8 gigabytes worth of stuff from a source and say those 8 gigabytes are made up of files made from Italy's cyber police, the CNAIPIC. I'd pronounce the Italian horribly if I tried. The move is thought to be a retaliation for the arrest of Anonymous members in Italy, but Anonymous hasn't officially shared its motive. Anonymous has also targeted the man allegedly responsible for the shooting spree in Oslo.
AT&T has announced that any postpaid Android phone it releases this year will get Gingerbread. Atrix 4G users will get Android 2.3 today. HTC Inspire 4G users will land Gingerbread in the coming weeks. The Facebook phone, which is HTC's status, is the first ATT phone to use 2.3. Device users should know that delivery methods will vary by device. Some will get the updates over the air, but others may have to connect via a Wi-Fi network or a PC.
Speaking of Wi-Fi networks, according to Le Parisien, France has officially kicked several people off the internet using its 3 strikes law. The first person to get disconnected is a 54-year-old school teacher who claims he doesn't even know how to download unauthorized content, and he thinks someone used his own Wi-Fi network to download the movie Iron Man 2 illegally. So now it's up to the school teacher to prove his innocence.
Back at the D9 conference, Eric Schmidt said that Google had built and withheld technology capable of recognizing faces. Well, Google has just acquired a startup called PitPat, which can recognize faces and images and videos. So did Google just buy something so they would never use it? Or perhaps Google's looking to bolster its brand new Google Plus network. Google has previously stated that it would not implement facial recognition unless it has strong privacy protections built in.
And they won't associate MAC addresses with faces.
Yet.
I'm sure. Sandy Bridge is Intel's super awesome processor with both the CPU and the GPU on one die. That just hit the MacBook Air. However, those processors have now trickled down to some other inexpensive laptops. HP and Toshiba are selling laptops under $400. That's less than $400 that have Intel Sandy Bridge processors in them. So if you want budget and power in your laptop, watch out. You can get it soon with Windows too.
You've probably heard this one before. To compete with the Apple iPad, you need, to have a tablet that stands out. And T-Mobile is like, we can do that. They're actually making a very bold claim that the LG G Slate's network data speeds are up to 2 times faster than the iPad 2 on AT&T or Verizon. T-Mobile also took a shot at the Motorola Zoom on Verizon, saying the G Slate is 3 times faster than the Zoom. Boom. T-Mobile conducted over 300 tests before making those claims, so they feel confident that they can make them.
Nice. Now, around 5 years ago, Microsoft and Novell struck a deal to collaborate on Windows and Linux interoperability, and today Microsoft announced that it's set up a 4-year extension with Attachmate, which now owns Novell. Now, according to the deal, Microsoft will spend $100 million on support certificates for SUSE Linux Enterprise. Also, the companies agreed not to sue each other. over companies' patent violations.
Unless to each other's customers.
Yeah,
for now.
Customers. Yeah, for now.
Right.
You're good.
It's just like a gun at their head. Right.
All right, let's move on to the rumor mill. Lots of Apple rumors out today. Smart House has a particularly bad reputation, according to 9 to 5 Mac, for Apple rumors, but they got one that's worth paying attention to. A 55-inch LG OLED panel will be used in a new Apple TV, according to them. Around the horn, confidence in this rumor.
30%.
30%. Darren.
22.5%.
Sarah Lane.
45%.
45.
I wanted to aim high.
8% in this. Boy Genius Report, though, they've got a little better reputation for passing along these rumors, and exclusively learned that AT&T has begun communicating launch plans for Apple's next-generation iPhone 5 to come mid-September. Around the horn, Sarah Lane.
I want it to be true, so I'm saying thumbs up.
Darren Kitchen.
Yeah, I'll be an optimist.
Iyaz Akhtar.
Thumbs up.
And I forgot to mention, the Verizon CEO also said that's going to be a little later in the year now on the earnings call for Verizon, or on a call about that.
That bolsters
saying, part of the reason we didn't have as much phone revenue is because the iPhone's not coming until later. And also, just a note here, Price Grabber says 35% of U.S. consumers plan on buying the iPhone 5, even though they don't know if there is an iPhone 5. So there will be, and they'll sell lots of them. Let's move on to the calendar.
O'Reilly's Open Source Convention starts today. It's going to run through the 29th in Portland, Oregon. Should I say that twice?
Yes, please.
Everything twice. So.
The Open Source Convention starts today. Okay. Apple just released iOS 4.3.5 to fix a security vulnerability. It's also worth noting that this update comes just 10 days after 4.3.4, which addressed a specific security hold related to PDF support.
And right before DEF CON Black Hat.
What's that?
And right before DEF CON and Black Hat.
And that too. Yeah. Yeah, good timing. Sprint's CDMA-based Direct Connect alternative is officially slated to launch this winter, and old-fashioned iDen push-to-talk users will have to switch to something new when iDen cells are phased out in 202013. You've got
a couple
some time.
years. Got a couple
You've
years.
got some time, but the phase is happening.
We're going to see lots of nostalgia T-shirts for iDen now.
Oh.
No, we're not. Time for some voicemail. 260-TNT show is the phone number, and we're going to go right to Tom, who has a wish for us in our new studio. Tom, what do you have to say?
Take it away.
Hey, Tom, this is Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Just wanted to say congratulations on your new location. You almost look like a legitimate news organization. Anyway, love the show. Talk to you later. Bye.
G.
Oh, thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Wow.
Those positive
we
words.
almost.
Joy.
Look,
Sound like an intelligent caller.
News. All right. Thanks.
Tired.
Appreciate it. Yeah, he was up late watching all of the reruns. That's
possibly watching the drop cam all day.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, I'm too tired.
Let's move on to the emails. TNT@twit.tv. Jonathan in Kentucky says, according to what I've read in defense of soldered memory, it is slightly more power efficient and faster because of better quality direct connections rather than through some slot. Therefore, being soldered, it takes less space on the motherboard, as we call it. This probably saves money in manufacturing, and assuming you replace the laptop after 3 years, the durable good limit is cost efficient. So he's explaining why you might have that thing soldered on in the MacBook Air, and that makes some good sense. Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate that email. All right. Don't forget, you can submit stories at our Reddit at technewstoday.reddit.com. Thanks to Homer Bialy, Captain Kipper, White Hat, TX, Icebud, Pete C, and Isting, among many others who submitted stuff today. And we don't have the bricks up yet in the lobby. They're coming. There's a word "bricks" is written on the wall, so we know where to put them when they come. So you can still get one, right? Is that right? Absolutely. Go and it's not too late. Get a brick, bricks.twit.tv. Your name could be right over there. I could be looking at it right now. I can see it from here. So get a brick, bricks.twit.tv. Thanks, everybody, for watching the inaugural episode of Tech News Today. Darren, thanks. What do you think?
Oh, dude, I love it. This is
enjoying it in here?
Space, yeah.
Let folks know what's going on at Hack 5.
Oh, dude, so we talked about earlier those MAC addresses and the Wi-Fi access points, and I kind of explained beacons real quick. But if you want to know more about that, I just so happen to have an episode that came out today on hack5.org. Right now on the homepage, find out the ins and outs of beacons and how you can do a little raw frame injection to make your own.
Raw frame injection. Always a good time.
It's delicious.
All right, find us on the web, folks, twit.tv/TNT. You can email us, TNT@twit.tv, or give us a call, 260-TNT show. We'll see you tomorrow with our second episode from the new studio. Till then, have a good evening, or morning, or afternoon.